We're going to continue with our composition section of the study guide. Number 11, we're asked to perform the indicated operation. And notice that here we're given two functions, and then we're asked to find f composition g of -8. So we're composing these functions. F of a is a squared plus 3a. G of a is 2a plus 2. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to rewrite it. And we rewrite it so it's easier to see how the functions are actually composing each other. So we're taking one function, getting a value for that, so we're working it out, and then we're going to use that result in order to apply it to the second function. And this is what I mean. So we're going to rewrite this as f of g of -8. Now I can see what I'm doing because I know that I have to work from the inside out. So I'm going to start with my g of -8. Keep in mind, when they give you a value of your function, they're telling you that's what you're going to replace your variable with. So the first thing I'm going to do is work out this inside part. So I'm going to end up with f of g of -8 tells me to write the g function, which is 2 times a plus 2. But it says to replace the variable with -8. So let's do that. I'm going to erase the a and put -8. Now I've got just straight arithmetic. I'm going to go ahead and work that part that's in the parentheses out. So this gives me f of whatever I get when I work this out. 2 times -8 is -16, plus 2 is -14. So now I'm down to f of -14, which tells me to write the f function and replace the variables with -14 this time. So let's do that. So the f function is a squared plus 3 times a. And again, this -14 means to replace both of these variables with -14. So let's do it. -14, -14. And let's work it out, and we'll have our answer. So -14 squared, a negative times a negative gives me a positive 196. Plus 3 times -14. Well, a positive times a negative is a negative, and that will be a minus or negative 42. And then when I take 196 and subtract 42, I'll end up with 154. And that's my final answer to this problem. Let's look at number 12. Same thing. We've got each of our functions. First, I'm going to rewrite this as h of g of -2. So I rewrote it first. And then I work out what's in parentheses, but I make sure I replace my g function with -2 in place of the variable. Here's my g, it's a minus 2. A is -2, so I'm going to go ahead and write -2 minus 2. Well, that gives me -4. So now I'm down to h of -4. That tells me to write the h function, but replace the variable with -4 now. The h function is a squared minus 3a. So I'm going to go ahead and replace my variable and write -4 squared minus 3 times -4. What does that give me? A -4 times itself is a positive 16. A negative times a negative, that gives me a positive 12. And my final answer is going to be 28. For number 12. Let's look at 13. Same process. Let's rewrite it. They want g composing f, so g of f of -3. Which is g of, let's see, what's the f function? 4x plus 4. I replace the x with -3, so 4 times -3 plus 4. And let's work that part out. This gives me -12, so I've got g of -12 plus a positive 4 is going to be a -8. So now I take the g function, x plus 4, and I replace the x with -8. So that'll be -8 plus 4, which is -4. So there's our final answer for that. And lastly, number 14. Okay, rewrite, well, look, they already rewrote it for us on number 14. And there's a slight change. They didn't give us a numeric value. They kept it as a variable here. So let's see how that works and what's the difference when we do it with the variable still intact. So, again, I do what's in parentheses first. You always start on the inside and work your way out. I'm going to have to find, I need to find f of g of n. Well, what is g of n? It is n plus 3. Notice I didn't replace the variable with a value. They didn't give me a value, so I keep the variable. But what it does tell me is that when I write my f function, I need to do f of this expression. That means wherever I do have a variable in my f function, I'm going to replace it with this expression. So let me do this. I'm going to go ahead and write the f function out, which is 3 times n plus 1. I've got to replace the variable with what's in here. So I got to replace this n with n plus 3. Instead of a number like we had on the other ones, I have to replace it with the expression that I have in there. But then it gives me some different kind of work. I see some distributive work that needs to be done right here. So 3 times n is 3n. 3 times 3 is 9 plus that 1. I can combine my 9 and my 1, so my final answer will be 3n plus 10 for number 14. So that's this answer. Not too bad. All right. Let's take a look at the next problem.